Welcome everybody, Frank Demora here with the last Chronicles of Planet Earth, and please visit my website. You'll see it here, BibleProphecyMan.com. We're going to get right into the 200 million man, how it is in the scriptures where the Lord pointed out in the New Testament, in the book of Revelation, that you'll see the scriptures down here, that the Lord had warned us that in the last days there was going to be an army that would come from the east, and that army would number 200 million soldiers. And so let me show you two scriptures from the book of Revelation, and then I'll connect the dots for you. It says this, and this is coming from Revelation chapter 9, verses 14 and 16. It said to the sixth angel who had the trumpet, "Release the four angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates." And the four angels who had been kept ready for this very hour and day and month and year were released to kill a third of mankind. And the number of the mounted troops was 200 million. I heard their number. And then again in Revelation chapter 16, verse 12, it says this, "And the sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up to prepare the way for the kings from the east." All right, so what we have here is an army of 200 million soldiers. This army, when it comes, we see that it's going to be devastating effects, because it shows us right there that a third of mankind will be killed when this army begins their march. And so not only do we see the 200 million man army coming, and we see that it's going to destroy or kill a third of mankind, but we also see that the great river Euphrates is going to also be in effect at this time with this 200 million man army. And so this army will cross the dry river Euphrates, and we see the examples, if you will. We're seeing in the news samples of us rushing to this prophecy. Let me show you. Well, first of all, back in 1965, I'm going to show you, this was a Time magazine dated May 21st of 1965, and it was talking about China's army. And let me just show you this one brief section of it, and then I'm going to connect the dots between some other articles. It says, "No real risk to back Lao's buster. Red China passed the word that its 200 million man and woman militia had gone into serious training." The mainline press reported surely that the units in the UN border were engaged in intense bayonet and machine gun drill. Men and women in blue boiler suits marched briskly through the Peking streets and rifles slung. So this is way back in 1965. They were showing us that there was in fact an army of the exact number that Jesus Christ talked about. And guess what? They're from the east. 200 million man army. So now I want to turn our attention to a new report, because we're going to move right in to something what I think that could be very, very important to prophecy. And the name of the article is "Russia Stunned After the Japanese Plan to Evacuate 40 Million Revealed." Let me go right here. I'm just going to click right to the article. So when you're at my site, this is what you're going to see when you click to the links. Of course, we're going to scroll down, and here comes the article. And we have to get rid of some of these pop-ups. But let's listen to the article.
Odiogo.com, the web read for you.
Russia stunned after Japanese plan to evacuate 40 million revealed. A new report circulating in the Kremlin today, prepared by the Foreign Ministry, on the planned reopening of talks with Japan over the disputed Kuril Islands during the next fortnight, states that Russian diplomats were stunned after being told by their Japanese counterparts that upwards of 40 million of their peoples were in extreme danger of life-threatening radiation poisoning and could very well likely be faced with forced evacuations away from their country's easternmost located cities, including the world's largest one, Tokyo. The Kuril Islands are located in Russia's Sakhalin Oblast region and stretch approximately 1,300 kilometers 810 miles northeast from Hokkaido, Japan, to Kamchatka, Russia, separating the Sea of Okhotsk from the North Pacific Ocean. There are 56 islands and many more minor rocks. It consists of Greater Kuril Ridge and Lesser Kuril Ridge, all of which were captured by Soviet forces in the closing days of World War II from the Japanese. The extreme danger facing tens of millions of the Japanese peoples is the result of the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster that was a series of equipment failures, nuclear meltdowns, and releases of radioactive materials at the Fukushima I nuclear power plant, following the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami on March 11, 2011. According to this report, Japanese diplomats have signaled to their Russian counterparts that the returning of the Kuril Islands to Japan is critical as they have no other place to resettle so many people that would, in essence, become the largest migration of human beings since the 1930s when Soviet leader Stalin forced tens of millions to resettle Russia's far eastern regions. Important to note, this report continues, are that Japanese diplomats told their Russian counterparts that they were, also, seriously considering an offer by China to relocate tens of millions of their citizens to the Chinese mainland to inhabit what are called the ghost cities, built for reasons still unknown and described, in part, by London's Daily Mail news service in their December 18, 2010 article titled, "The Ghost Towns of China, Amazing Satellite Images Show Cities Meant to Be Home to Millions Lying Deserted." It says, quote, "These amazing satellite images show sprawling cities built in remote parts of China that have been left completely abandoned, sometimes years after their construction. Elaborate public buildings and open spaces are completely unused, with the exception of a few government vehicles near communist authority offices. Some estimates put the number of empty homes at as many as 64 million, with up to 20 new cities being built every year in the country's vast swaths of free land." Unquote. Foreign ministry experts in this report note that should Japan accept China's offer, the combined power of these two Asian peoples would make them the largest superpower in human history with an economy larger than that of the United States and European Union combined and able to field a combined military force of over 200 million. To how dire the situation is in Japan was recently articulated.
All right, well, I'm going to stop it right there, and you can see what it was saying here, that the combined forces between these Japanese and the Chinese, if they were to go and migrate over to these cities that are empty, completely empty, and they've been sitting empty, and I'm going to show you video of those, they could actually come up with the army, as you see here, a military force of over 200 million soldiers. And this isn't a coincidence by any chance, because the Lord already showed us almost 2,000 years ago that there would be an army that would number 200 million people that would come from the east. And so with that, now let me go to this is a Dateline video. And once you go to my website, that you're going to be able to see this at my website, watch the whole video, but I'm going to show you a little bit of it, because I believe that because of the dire circumstances now taking place in Japan, where we have 40 million people, that if they don't move, they're going to end up getting this radiation continuously and they'll end up dying. So what are their choices? Either to go to Russia, to a foreign people, or to head to the east, to a nation that is more, how would you say, to their ancestry, or moving towards the east, the Asian countries, which would probably be better for them in the long run. And so let me show you what the city looks like that they're talking about, because there's many cities that are sitting empty, and it would be very easy to move this many people into a city that is a ghost town right now.
One remarkable piece of economic news barely rated a mention this week. China surpassed the United States as the world's leading manufacturer. It's hard to grasp the magnitude and speed of China's economic transformation. However, things may not be as rosy as they seem. It's estimated that 10 new cities are being built every year. A sign of future growth, or just another bubble waiting to burst? Adrian Brown reports.
These are satellite images of one of China's newest cities. A sprawling urban centre, complete with public buildings, hotels and apartment blocks. And this is the view from the ground. 11 a.m. on a Thursday morning and Zhengzhou CBD is deserted. Shops unoccupied, hundreds of apartments uninhabited. All the shops in this mall are empty. Not that that worries the government, because they're simply more concerned with maintaining economic growth. And one way of achieving that is building cities like this one. The big question, though, is how much longer all these shops and properties can remain vacant. But all around me, the construction of this metropolis goes on. And here, in the southern city of Dongguan, yet another example. This is the South China Mall. Toy shop owner Tian Yao Gao is doing his best to keep his spirits up.
Now what I'm going to do is move it up a little bit so you can get an idea about some of these other places.
Daya Bay is a city carved out of agricultural land and designed for 12 million people. That ambitious forecast, though, appears to be wildly out of kilter with reality. Because, according to even China's state-controlled media, 70% of these new units remain unoccupied. Is China experiencing a property bubble?
Absolutely. A property bubble like which I don't think we've ever seen.
Now, I'm going to stop it right there because this becomes a really good point. China, with this property bubble, they could really benefit from the Japanese, 40 million of those Japanese moving into this area, because as soon as that does that, it would become economically thriving. And this is what the Chinese would like. The Japanese obviously need a home. They need a place without radiation, so the two would gel together. I'm not sure if this is going to happen immediately, but they need to do something very, very soon, because the radiation is there. It's going to continue to affect them, and I believe that you're going to see a lot more about this in the news. So what does all of this tell us? Well, these different events are driving to where the Lord showed us that we would be going, an army of 200 million soldiers. And I'm praying that you would begin to believe what the Lord has showed us, because there is no doubt in my mind that the scriptures will be fulfilled in the near future. So I guess what I'm saying is, please keep your eyes on the news, because if the Lord told us almost 2,000 years ago, please look for it. You'll see it. This army that will number 200 million soldiers. And then you see at this time, when you have this number keep popping up over and over again, at the same time, by the way, when you do a Google search, and in a lot of my presentations and in my post, all you would have to do is put Frank Demora, Euphrates River running dry, and you'll get a lot of information I've posted about how the Euphrates River is running dry. And there was just a new article that just came out talking about how the Tigris and the Euphrates River are drying up. None of these things are coincidence. The Lord is showing you. His word is the truth. He is coming back, and I'm praying that you will accept it, that the kings of the East will have their army of 200 million soldiers, one way or the other. The Lord's words will be fulfilled.